Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to the Krista Chronicles and to another recent released test pilot. Now, if you're new to these videos or it's been a bit since I've done one, so we're just gonna recap what it is we're doing today. So, the idea behind these recent released test pilots is a way for me to go back to the decks that I have brought into my collection that have been released within the last few months. I try to keep it to like under 6 months, ideally 3. About, I don't know, I don't really like quantify it too much. It tends to be under 3 months. And it's a way for me to go back and share my thoughts after being able to use the deck for a few weeks and share my thoughts about like how I'm liking it, how I've been using it, the way I think it works best, at least for me. Again, these are all, of course, my own opinions. And then I show some pairings if they're decks that I've really enjoyed using. So, is that all I have to explain about that? Yeah, it's just a way to revisit more recent releases and of kind of like, okay, I was excited about this obviously because I got it in some fashion. Here's my thoughts about it after using it for a little bit. Basically, that's the point. So, that being said, I have, how many decks today? 4? 4, 5? I don't know. We'll see. Let's just get into it. Starting off with the Cowgirls and Aliens Oracle. I know, I've been talking about this so much, so we know how this review is gonna go. I love this. I love this Oracle deck. This one came out early July. I want to say possibly just like the first week of July, so I've had it for about a month now, maybe a little bit over a month, because I got it like I ordered it as soon as this guy released, and I love it. So, with this Oracle deck, I did do a full flip through of this as well if you're interested in that. What has stood out to me is that, first of all, on each card, you get your title, but then you get an affirmation on every single card. Can we see that? Okay. So for example, we've got the Highwayman. I am determined and I will keep trying. So that makes this usable, of course, as an affirmation deck. But beyond that, I also really like using this as a daily draw deck because in the guidebook, for again, each of the cards, you get the story, which kind of explains, you kind of get into the character of each of these cards. You get the main message, so it takes that affirmation and really digs into it. But then also, in this little box at the end of every entry, you get tips, which takes the affirmation and that message and gives you an actionable step. So you're getting so many elements in one Oracle deck, and I think this is one that, at least from what I've been seeing other people saying, has really taken us all by surprise, because the topic of this seemed like it was maybe going to be a little bit, I don't know. What words do I want to use here? Well, I guess I could use any words because I'm completely eating my words on this one. I thought it was going to be silly, maybe a little bit just like fluffy in a way I don't usually like. So wrong. This Oracle really has a lot of surprising depth to me, a lot of just different elements that I feel like really open it up to be usable in so many different ways. Because again, you can just pull the card and look at the affirmation and use it as an affirmation deck. But then also, the way I've been using it is as if you've been watching my videos, my big way I use tarot is a morning daily draw. I do one oracle, one tarot card, and kind of just reflect on the day. I love this deck for that because we get an affirmation, which I just think is nice to get first thing in the morning, which is when I do this. But then I also, so I journal along with these cards, I should say. So I get a message to reflect on for my journaling. But then I get the tips, and I can read that like actionable step section and carry it with me throughout my day. And I have found often when, I really like when decks do that, but I don't find that I often actually do what's suggested. This one I have. I've really thought about it throughout my day, and it's been really, really helpful in some situations, which has just been so cool. So again, this has just been like such a versatile deck for me since I got it. It ticks all the right boxes of being able to just use it in so many different ways, which I think is so cool. Because again, I use it for my morning journaling because that message section I find really is awesome for that. I've brought it in my work bag to just pull a quick card and just read the affirmation when I need it. And again, I'm thinking about those actionable steps quite a lot. So this is a big win for me. I love it. And I don't think I mentioned in my explanation in the beginning for all, oh no, I did. So let's get into what I've been pairing with this. Okay, so I really have two main pairings I use with this deck, and I've talked about them before, so it'll be no surprise if you've heard that. And what I like to do when it comes to these two decks is pull my card from here first and use one of the decks depending on whether I get a cowgirl or an alien. So, since we're on a cowgirl card right here, we'll start with the cowgirl deck. And that is the Desert Illuminations Tarot. I just love this pairing so much. And this, when I bought the Cowgirls and Cowgirls and Aliens Oracle, this was the one I was really hoping it would pair with, since I don't have a ton to pair with the Desert Illuminations, and I was right, at least in my opinion. I think it works fantastically. And it does also, I should say too, it does go with the alien cards as well. I just like to play with the deck that way because I think it's fun. But look at how well the colors go. I think that's what's the most, maybe not, well, I don't know. I don't know what's the most fun about this deck, but one of the really fun things is just the colors I get to use. It's so bright and pink. I love all the pink. And the other reason I really like this is because the Desert Illuminations, at least with it is coming out mass market, I have heard. So I don't know how the mass market will be, but with the indie edition, you don't really get much in terms of a guide. You get a fold-out pamphlet that tells you what the suits are, since they have different names, and then you do get some keywords for the majors, but not for the minors. But what I really enjoy about that is that when it comes to the message, I'm really focusing on all the different pieces we get in this oracle, and then the tarot is more of a narrower of like, okay, where am I experiencing what's going on in this card, or where is it asking me to look? So I do really enjoy that. When you get like a pretty detailed oracle like this one, I do actually like pairing it with a tarot that doesn't have so much to get into. So that's the first pairing, Desert Illuminations. Then the alien pairing, let's just get onto an alien card. Perfect, just because. Is the Zeke's Arcana. another one where the colors are just so fun and just match so well with what's going on in this deck. Especially the alien cards. I love it so much. Now this to me, again, I think it definitely pairs well with both, or the whole deck I should say, but I am more inclined to really like this one, these two together I should say, when it's an alien card. So where the Desert Illuminations I think really works for both, personally I think the Zeke's Arcana works better with the alien cards. Like, look at that. Compared to that, I just think it feels a bit more in the same world with the alien cards. But I really like this pairing. That is the Zeke's Arcana. And I do have one more to show, which is not, these two are the ones I definitely use the most with this deck. But I think this one is definitely worth showing too. Let's just make this pile a little higher. Because it's another tarot that I never really know what to pair with it, and I got, so really it was inspired by the Space Pirate card. I pulled this one of the first times I used this deck, and I was like, oh, expecting to either pick the Zeke's Arcana or the Desert Illuminations. But then I pulled this card and was like, wait a second, this goes perfectly with the Stardust Wanderer tarot, because this is entirely space pirates. So that's where this pairing came from. And I thought it was worth mentioning because I do feel like it goes. It was really fun to have all this together with that card. But I think beyond that, I do think it works. I think it is a fun, brings like a fun outer space. I guess it's already outer space, but leans into that outer space, but also mixing together two themes into that space theme. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we get the pirates, which are more kind of like a human earthly thing, but they're in outer space, just like with the aliens and the Cowgirls. So I do think it works. I don't think it's as visually perfect as I feel like the other ones are, but I do think it's a really fun pairing, especially if you're like me and love this tarot, but just aren't sure what to pair with it. I think this one really works. So that is the last pairing I have to show. So let's get on to the next deck. Okay, the next deck I have to show you is the Woodland Fairy Tale Tarot. Now this is another one. I have a full walkthrough of this one as well. And if you saw that, you'll know that this is another one that really took me by surprise, just with how it functions and the elements it involves. And again, another one like I have to eat my initial opinions on when I just saw it online. Really took me by surprise. So this is another one I love. So the Woodland Fairy Tale Tarot, first of all, I just really, more than I thought I would, I really like the illustration style. So the setup of this deck is the major arcanas each have their own fairy tale and plant association. And then the minors, each suit follows one story and has one plant association. And so what I have found with that setup is that neither the fairy tale aspect or the plant aspect feels overpowering, if that makes sense. Because sometimes when I have a tarot deck that really has a very specific theme and leans very heavily into it, I do enjoy that, but I find it, at least for me, limits a bit the oracles I want to pair with it, because for my readings, I usually like to have, I use almost always an oracle and a tarot, and I just prefer that one deck has some kind of like, I don't know if heavy theming is the right word, but if that's the case, then the other deck, I prefer it not to. Where this is something about just the combination of the two and the way it's used doesn't feel like there is this huge theming to it. It's present, and the use of it, I think, is really, I think it's really good. And I guess what I'm saying here is, okay, let me say it in just more concise words, is that fairy tale and plants, both of those to me feel like big topics. That's what I'm trying to say. And so when I saw that there was going to be a combination of the two, I was a bit apprehensive about how are those going to come together and not feel like one was winning out over the other. And they accomplished that in this deck. They really did. Really making such good balanced reference to both the plants and the fairy tale. And I think how that was successfully done was by taking the suits for the minors and giving them one story, giving them one plant. It just, I think it was a really smart thing to do, I feel. So, how I have been using this deck. I've been using it as a daily draw, and I think it works for that. But how I think it shines the best, and the thing about this deck that really wowed me, I guess I should say, is for each of the entries, let's see if we can get a focus, you get these key sentences that bring in elements of the fairy tale, the plant, things of that sort, but it's just these really good, concise sentence or two that you get for each card that really feels, to me, very guiding. So while I have used this for a daily draw, again, totally works, the tone of those key sentences feels very advice-like, guiding to me. So what I've really more started using this deck for is in those moments where I'm doing a bit more of a random tarot reading, so not my routine around it, because a situation has come up that I'm confused about, or I'm not quite sure about maybe a decision I'm making or what choice to make, where I feel like I just need some advice, need some help with answers. This deck really seems to shine in that way. Let's see if I can give an example. Okay, so for the Sun card, let's say I was doing a reading because I don't know. I don't even have to get specific. Say I was just confused about a situation at work. So I shuffle the deck, I pull a card. I also really like this for single card draw, I will say. And let's say I pulled out the Sun. The key sentence on here is, it's time to call things by their proper name and reveal what remains hidden. The tail there is Rumpelstiltskin with Helichrysum. I mean, that's such good, that just gives you so much to think about, I think. Like, if you're really trying to reflect on a certain situation, it feels like it's giving you a bit of a nudge and like, okay, here's what I kind of think you need to do about that. And I just think it's been really helpful for me in that way. So, as kind of like guidance, advice, seems to be where this tarot really shines for me. And I love it for that. Really such an unexpected win for me. I think this is so great. So, let's get into the pairings. Okay, so 2 pairings that I mostly have been using with this one. Starting with the Cottage Witch Oracle, which is one that tends to pair with a lot of things, but something about the fact that the tarot is themed around fairy tales and story, I don't know, just something about it made me think Cottage Witch. And I think that is just because I am since it's my creation, I personally really love getting messages from story, mythology, folklore. It just felt like it fit the vibe. And so I have been using these together quite a bit. And I do like how they visually go. The Cottage Witch tends to give the keyword to focus on when it comes to the story and plant we're looking into with each of these cards. But also when it comes to how I chose the keywords on these cards, I of course leaned into just sort of like actual aspects I was seeing of this, like chipmunks with startle. It's because they startle really easily. But then there were some things that it was because I chose the word because I was leaning into story around the different objects. Like, look at those two together. I just really like it. I think the Cottage Witch, I mean, and it could just be because I know it really well, but it just is like such an easy deck to utilize to me because of that keyword. And so I don't have to really think much about the Oracle, so I can really focus on getting into the guidebook of this tarot and use the Oracle more as like a pinpointer. I'm like, okay, here's what we're gonna focus on. So, I really like those two together. That is the Cottage Witch Oracle, which is available now, if I haven't said before, it's on Make Playing Cards, just open to get. All of the, like the main deck and the expansions are all there. And I did put the physical guidebook on Amazon, so that's also available as well. So instead of doing pre-orders for right now, I just kind of made everything available to get on your own timeline if you wish. So, just to note that. Anyway, the second pairing I really like is the Field Guide to Guardian Dragons. Are we surprised? I love this deck so much. Like, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever stop using it. It just goes with so many of these kind of, like, fairy tale and fairy tale feeling decks. I just think they look so cute together. And again, we get that keyword. So even if I don't want to get into both guidebooks, I can just use the keyword on the Oracle. But I really love the idea, since these are garden dragons, I like the idea that when it comes to the plant element in the tarot, that these dragons are almost the guardians of that plant element. And they reveal the story surrounding that plant. Which is just a fun way to think about it. I think they visually go really nice together. I like them. I like them together. So, that's the second pairing, the Field Guide to Garden Dragons. So, that's all I got for this one. Let's get into the next. Okay, next up we've got a newer indie release. This was a Kickstarter that I believe came in sometime in the month of May. I'm realizing too, did I say when this came out? This came out literally the last day of May. So, that's that. Anyway, this I believe came in May. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that correctly. Regardless, It's the Phases and Forests Oracle deck by Catherine Riles, Cat Riles on Instagram, the creator of the oh my gosh! It's like, it's a total fan favorite, and I also love it. Blanking. Darn it. I gotta go find it. Roots and Wings. The Roots and Wings Oracle, which I'm pretty sure most of us absolutely love. I really love this deck. It's a really good, kind of like general oracle that just pairs with everything. I don't need to take that out. That's not what we're talking about here. Anyway, so when I saw this on Kickstarter, I was really excited. And then when I saw the layout of it, that it kind of had more illustrated images than in the Roots and Wings, because that's my only very personal thing about Roots and Wings, is I just tend to not love a lot of white space on my cards. But anyway, that says something about this, because I still really like this, even though it does have more white space. But when I saw she was coming out with this that has less white space, I was very excited about it. So, let's get into it. So what we have here, hold on, let me be clear on the theme here. So, the Phases and Forests Oracle deck is inspired by the plants and nature of the Blue Ridge Mountains for the purpose of helping us connect to ourselves and the natural world. Yes. So what I really like about the theming in this, it's very clearly focused, as the name suggests, phases, cycles, and how that appears in nature. So I love any kind of theme around that, and I think it's done really well in this deck. We get a really interesting mix of different cycles. So we have, of course, a lot of very nature-y themed cards, forest-themed cards, and plants. But what I love that we also get in this deck are the moon phases. We get moon phase cards. I want to say we get season cards. If not specific seasons, things that kind of allude to it. No, we do. Yeah, we get like summer solstice. Yes, okay. So we get seasonal cards as well, which I think is really, really cool. I mean, the artwork on this is so beautiful. Now, the way I've been absolutely loving to use this deck, and I think is just a way it could shine for everyone. Anyone, I shouldn't say everyone, anyone is what I meant. Is, well, first of all, we get such a good keyword up here. Let's do a breakdown of a card. We get an amazing keyword right at the bottom. And then underneath that, on every single card, we get a question that has to do with the keyword. So this one here is delicate. Have you been gentle with your emotions, or are you being too hard on yourself? We get that just right on the card. And they're really interesting, like very thought-provoking questions. So how I've been liking to use this is as a journal prompt deck. I think that is really a way it shines. We have play. Have you made time for play in your day? What areas of your life could use more playfulness? And so I like it as my morning draw deck, but I think I like it a little bit more as something to use in the evening. As my day's winding down, I just want to pull a single card and maybe do some, either whether it's just reflecting if I don't feel like journaling, or I can do some journaling. I think this really shines in that way. And you do get a guidebook, a little like pamphlet here, that you get something for every card. So the way the cool thing in this is that in the guidebook you do get what each card is showing. So if there's plants or animals, it's in here. So you do get all that information. And then you do get kind of like the usual message interpretation for the oracle card like you would expect in an oracle guidebook. You do get that in here. And so that's how I've been able to use it. Like if I want to do a daily draw, I'm getting into this guidebook here, or you know, for my morning reading. But when I'm using it at night, I kind of just focus on the question. And so again, really versatile in that way. The artwork, of course, is gorgeous. And that's really where it shines for me. Like just kind of like a single card, journal prompt, thought prompt in the evening is how I prefer to use it. But we're still gonna get into some pairings because I have paired it with some things when I've tried it as my morning draw deck. So let's get into those. All right, for the Phases and Forests Oracle, there really is only one pairing I have to show for this. I think this could go, though, with so many different tarot decks, but the point of these pairings is just showing you what I have actually been using with these decks, and like I said, this one tends to be more of a single card draw for me. That's really like, or how I've enjoyed using it. However, there are occasions where either I'm using it in a different way for more of a true, like a reading, or there's times when I do the single card draw and I just feel like I want more. And so the deck I use in those cases is the Green Witch, Green Witch Tarot. And why I really enjoy this tarot with this oracle, two different reasons really. I think it gets at a very similar theming with just sort of being in touch with the natural world, of course, since it is the Green Witch Tarot, that's kind of the idea behind it, but also I find that this tarot really also leans into that idea of cycles. We get all of the seasons within the tarot deck, just like we do with this oracle. And I don't know, it feels really similar to me, where we get a lot of the green because that's kind of the main theming there, but it brings in a lot of different cycles. Like here, that looks to me more like fall. There's some winter feeling cards. I just feel like together, this duo really brings out that idea of natural cycles. And so, as a support to the oracle, this is just my favorite tarot I've found, because again, I think they just really get at the same idea. I like visually how they go together. I think they just look nice together. And yeah, the Green Witch really leans into a lot of the same ideas I have found. So, yeah, this is my one pairing for this. And, you know, sometimes when something works, you stick with it. Usually I like trying a lot of different pairings, but just the way I have been using this deck, this oracle, I just haven't found that I've been called to do that. And again, like, when I do want to use tarot with it, I just want to use this one, because it really works so well. So, that's my pairing for the Phases and Forest Oracle. That is the Green Witch Tarot. So, I believe we've got one more deck to look at. Yes, one more. So, let's get into it. Okay, the last deck we're going to get into today is another one I want to say came out in May. I'm pretty certain on that. But correct me if I'm wrong if you know the actual date it came out. But this one was tricky because there wasn't, I'm sure there was like a release date, but it's an indie deck that they never really do any sort of like pre-orders or like kicks, you know, they just like come out with it, so I'm never quite sure. But I did hear about this one pretty quickly, so I'm guessing it's May. That's the Flower Oracle from Broccoli Magazine. I love all of their decks. and this is no exception. If not, this might possibly be my favorite one. So, spoiler, all the decks today that I'm showing they were just total wins for me. I really, really liked them. Maybe I should make an effort to, like, if there were ones that just, like, didn't end up doing it for me, I should make that a little section. Noting that. Anyway, the Flower Oracle from Broccoli Magazine. So all of their Oracle decks have the same setup, just different themes. So we have different kind of suits to the deck. In this one, we've got, let me get the names. We've got the flowers, of course. Then we have pollinators and flower people. I love that. I love that so much. Because of course we were expecting flowers from this, but I really especially like that we get pollinator cards. And you can tell they really either just knew or did research into pollinators, because we get a lot of pollinators that we don't usually see. Of course we get the bee. I love the people cards too, the botanist. But I want to say, yes, look at that. We have a honey possum, that's a pollinator. Just pollinators that, you know, because we know the bee, we know the butterfly. Hummingbird, I feel like we don't see a ton, but I mean, it's like we do see that. We got hummingbird, but like a honey possum we don't usually see. I'm trying to find some others here. I want to say there's, I'm kind of remembering a bat in here, but maybe that's incorrect. Oh, we've got, yes, no, there is. We've got a ladybug and we get a bat. So things like, you know, we know they're pollinators, but we don't usually see them highlighted in that way. And I think that is so awesome. So what I love about these decks is that you get your title and then you get 3 keywords there at the bottom. So it just gives you a lot to kind of immediately go off of. The guidebooks are fantastic, but it's one of those things that if you don't want to get into the guidebook, you don't have to. Now, again, this absolutely works as a, like, as my morning oracle, but how I've discovered just this, from this deck, how all of the Broccoli Magazine decks seem to land for me is there's something kind of, I don't know, there is something divine feeling, like divine energy to these oracle decks. And so I've started using them in that way. When I'm doing readings around any sort of like divine entity, that kind of energy, I've started pulling out these oracles depending on, you know, what the energy is. And they're just amazing in that. I don't know, for those readings, I really like these oracle decks. I think it's something to do with the imagery. Again, just has that divine feeling to me. But then also getting these 3 keywords, I think really lends itself well to a more fleshed out reading than what I personally do as my morning reading, because again, I'm usually doing the 1 oracle, 1 tarot. I think getting these 3 keywords really lends itself well to just pulling more tarot cards. Especially like, I think Dawn Michelle was the one who showed this kind of reading first, where you use the 3 keywords as separate prompts. So you pull a tarot card for each of the keywords. I love doing that with this, especially in a like deity style reading. I just think this and all of the Broccoli Magazine decks really just, that's where they land for me, and I've really been enjoying it in that way. Especially because I tend to use, a lot of the times, for whatever reason, my found art decks tend to get used for deity readings. I mean, I have like the Tarot of Persephone's Garden is what I really like with this Flower Oracle. So of course, that's direct, it's a found art deck directly themed around a deity. I have the Tarot of the Huntress that I really enjoy, that I like putting with the Mushroom Oracle from the same people. But yeah, that's kind of where it lands for me, a total win. Let's get into the pairings. All right, last but not least, we've got the Flower Oracle pairings. And then stay tuned for after this, because I have decided to get a little bit into some decks that I've gotten in, again, in this same time span that haven't really been working for me. So anyway, stay tuned for that after this. What I've been using for this, again, as I was saying that, or I use the Broccoli Magazine decks now for deity style readings. So as I already showed, Tarot of Persephone's Garden is an amazing pairing with this deck. And I do want to say I saw this from Don Michel. I'm certain that's where I got it from. So shout out to Don Michel, the pairing queen, because now I've been obsessed with this pairing. I just think it works so well. Again, we've got that idea of Tarot of Persephone's Garden, so the flower makes sense. But because the collage in this deck pulls on found art, it pairs so nicely with these found art style of decks. And with these two together, I really like that we have the border on the Oracle, but borderless on the Tarot. I don't usually like doing two different decks with borders, typically. I just think this flows so nicely. And of course, this is the tarot that I use if I'm working with Persephone energy, so that's really where this reading goes, or these two decks together go. It's for a deity reading around Persephone. I've got my little Persephone pocket deity that sits over here. I just really like these two together. I think they look so beautiful, right? So that's my duo I've been using for Persephone. Love that. But before oh my gosh, I started my video. I have my computer on. I was watching Thea's latest In the Garden of the Goddess secret member space. I love when she says that. Secret member space video. So anyway, hit the wrong button. Okay, now what I want to show is, because as I said, I mostly have been using this for deity readings, but if I do want to use it as my daily morning reading, there is a deck that I use it with for that, and that's the Rainshadow Tarot. So before, basically I saw Don Michel use the Tarot of Persephone's Garden with this. This was the duo I was using. And I still use. I think they work so well together. I really like Claire Mack's art style with these decks as well. And I think her, oh my gosh, what kind of bug is that just flew by? I don't want to know. Anyway, I find that this tarot works really well with the flower, this Flower Oracle, and also the Mushroom Oracle. I don't know about the Seashell Oracle. To be honest, I haven't tried it. I feel like it might not go as well with that, but I could be so wrong. But I think these are so beautiful together, aren't they? Something about them, they go. But to me, this feels a bit more, it doesn't feel like a specific kind of deity energy. It feels a bit more general. And so, yeah. This is the pairing for when I kind of just want to use this oracle in a bit more of a general way, not so specific to a certain energy. I really look at that. I mean, that's So good. I love it. I love these two decks together. So that's all I got for this deck. Now, again, let's move on to some decks that haven't been working so well for me. Okay, we are going to get into that section I mentioned before, because I think a facet of this series, I think it would be good to show some things that maybe just aren't working for me, because in my last episode I did choose one that to show in like the main section that wasn't really working for me, but I know myself and I tend to want to just show the ones I'm excited about. It's easier for me to talk about, and so I think that's how we're gonna run this from now on, is the main section are going to be ones that have been wins for me, because the thing is that I can speak more so on the ones that are working for me because I've used them more. I have a hard time getting into myself, of course, to use something that I feel like isn't working for me. So I think we're going to do them in two different sections, because again, the ones that aren't working for me, I tend to be pretty quick to know that. I do try to give everything a fair chance, of course, but usually like 2-3 readings with them and I'm like, no, like this isn't for me. And so, but that's not enough for me to like really flesh out a great opinion, you know? And so I think that this might be more constructive is what I'm saying, because I want you to take this section very much for the grain of salt that it is, of this is purely just me, my tastes, my, what's the word? The style I usually like, my preferences. But it's still, I think it's still worth sharing. Okay, so let's get into it. I have two here that are more recent releases that I've gotten, and I'm pretty certain they are certainly going into my timeout bin. So that's where they're going to exist for the time being. The first one being one that I believe came out in either March or April, and that's the Amenti Oracle. This is, it's a cool deck. I think it has some really interesting key phrases. The artwork is cool. I feel like I know a lot of people who this artwork would totally be their style. When it comes down to it, all it is with this one is the art style just isn't for me. It doesn't really go. I was curious to try it because I thought it would go with some decks I have that are a bit more wild cards for me, like this She-Wolf or the Moonchild, that are a bit out of my usual style realm, and so I don't have a ton to pair with those. I thought this would be an interesting pairing for those, but when I tried it out, it just didn't even really seem right with those. I think this is just a little bit too far out of my usual art preference. I do think it's beautiful though. And I think the key phrases on it are really good. I think it's an awesome daily draw kind of deck. Purely, it's just the art style is not for me. So that's the Amenti Oracle. Then, the other deck I have to show is the Black Seed Tarot, which is a new deck out by Teresa Hutch. I want to say this was a July release. This one felt a little bit more disappointing to me. And here's why. So I have never had the White Sage Tarot, which is her first tarot deck that came out, I feel like years and years ago at this point. But I know a lot of people who really love it, and so I've seen it and I have like played with it a little bit. And so that deck is one that incorporates animals, is a bit more pippish, but then also incorporates chakras. And I guess where a little bit of the disappointment with this one came in is that and again, take this for a huge grain of salt because again, I've never had the White Sage Tarot. I'm just familiar with it. So trying to be very clear on that. So this one, we also have chakra associations. It also has animals. It also even gets, it's less pippish, but it does get a bit pippish in some cards. And so a bit of the disappointment for me comes in with like well, how is this different from the first one? And I know there are differences, like absolutely there are differences. I think just, I don't know if there is enough differences. It feels a little bit like, because again, we kind of went, it's, the whole black seed idea is taking the idea of this certain herb, spice, black cumin seed, reminds us to nurture the seeds of positivity, particularly love and compassion. I just didn't really feel like there was enough reference made to that throughout this deck. I didn't really like see the tie-in with, you know, naming it after this cumin seed. I feel like we didn't get that in any of the illustrations. And so to me, it just feels like a bit of a repeat of that first tarot. Now, I think if you love the White Sage Tarot, but want something in a full tarot size, then that's all, like, then you can have it. I think that's great. And again, I'm sure if you are like a White Sage Tarot aficionado and you get this, I could totally be so off base, so wrong. And you might find that there are differences. I think just to me, it doesn't feel like there is, so that was a bit confusing. Of like, okay, it seemed like it was trying to get at this different theming, but then what it really feels like it leads into is that like animal energy, chakra energy that I'm 98% sure is in the White Sage Tarot. So I just wasn't really sure. Oh, and then also we get some anthropomorphic animals, which is odd to me because then a lot of them aren't. Yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion on that. There are some really cute cards though. Wait, where did that one go? Look at this Page of Pentacles. Come on. I mean, that's adorable. So I don't know. This one's gonna go into purgatory because maybe I do just need to, I think maybe I need to let it simmer for a little bit, and who knows, maybe I'll come back around in a few months and be like, just kidding, but for right now, that's my feeling on it. So anyway, other than that, that's all I have for you today. So I hope you're having a great day so far, and I'll see you again very soon.